You love podcasts, the stories, the laughs, the unexpected turns. But when this episode ends, the silence starts. Not anymore. Audiobooks.com turns that silence into your next great adventure. With over 450,000 titles, from bestsellers to hidden gems, your love for listening just found its new best friend. And because you already know the joy of audio, we're giving you 3 free audiobooks to start your journey. Imagine your favorite podcast, now with unlimited episodes. That's audiobooks.com. Keep the story going. Sign up for your free trial at audiobooks.com/podcastfree today. Because for podcast lovers like you, the end of an episode is just the beginning. That's audiobooks.com/podcastfree.
Attention Talking Simpsons listeners, we have a special mini-series just for you.
We're going through the entire first season of King of the Hill, and you can only hear it if you're a $5 and up patron at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
We're giving the Talking Simpsons treatment to all 13 episodes of King of the Hill's first season, and if you want a free sample, you'll find the first episode available for free in the Talking Simpsons feed. Patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. It's the only place you'll find the first season of Talk King of the Hill.
Made you go click, 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 click. It's real easy, man.
I heartily endorse this event or product.
Ahoy hoy everybody, and welcome to Talking Simpsons, the podcast that's more fun than the game of Lent. I'm your host, the midriff monitor, Bob Mackey, and this is our chronological exploration of The Simpsons. Who else is here with us today?
Henry Gilbert. In this podcast, snap, crackles, and pops.
And who do we have on the line?
Your metabolism will change someday too, young man.
Oh, no.
I'm Will Sloan.
And today's episode is Wild Barts Can't Be Broken.
First pitch of the game. That's a rotating cuff. His career's over.
I'm gonna warm up the car.
But there's only been one pitch.
And it sucked.
That was gruesome. Today's episode aired on January 17th, 1999. And as always, Henry will tell us what happened on this mythical day in real world history.
Oh my god!
Oh boy, Bobby. Super Smash Bros. Comes out on the Nintendo 64 in Japan.
Wow.
Varsity Blues debuts at #1 in the box office. And in the NFL playoffs, the winners are the Denver Broncos and the Atlanta Falcons.
Excellent line reading there.
Yes. But we'll learn more about that in Super Bowl 33 next episode, or actually 2 episodes of this podcast.
Very, very soon. The dawn of Family Guy will be upon us.
Yes. Yep.
But yes, Super Smash Bros., the start of an empire for Nintendo. And I remember when that game came out and was being previewed, the reaction was, what the hell is this? This is very stupid. What are they thinking? But now it is one of their biggest games.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's got to be bigger than Mario.
Yeah, as a franchise, it sells like more than just about anything that is a Pokemon. And it's, was ahead of the curve on the Marvel movie mashup of just like it's every character together at once from Nintendo history.
And not to ruin the beginning of this podcast with Gamer Chat, but the most exciting thing now is thinking about what characters will be next.
Yeah, it's all... we've gotten so many of the predicted characters.
This is the good Ready Player One. Super Smash Brothers.
I'm surprised to hear it was controversial at the time. It was a very big hit on my schoolyard when I was 10. I heard no dissenting voices.
We're a little older, so I think the teen gamers were, playing Quake and the Dooms and the many gory shooters and Tomb Raiders, so... a lot of them looked down upon this kiddie fighting game, but it was lots of fun.
Well, that's why we've got to break down those barriers between high and low.
And I remember seeing Varsity Blues as a teen. It was one of those films made for surly teens of our generation. And I remember in the movie, like James Van Der Beek, he does not say football player to me, but he's okay in it. I remember that to show that he's a smart guy, not some dumb jock, he reads Kurt Vonnegut. And everybody's like, what are you reading?
Was that his 10th grade reading assignment? I'm kidding. I love Kurt Vonnegut, but it's often assigned to high school students. I think the one thing in that movie that was the draw for teenage boys was the whipped cream bikini scene.
Yes.
But you saw that in trailers and commercials. Like, there's no more than that, is there?
You might get 8 more seconds.
Yeah.
That's kind of it, though.
It's the promise of the removal of whipped cream, which is not going to happen.
That does not happen in the film.
Exactly. Not on the screen, anyways.
I've still not seen Varsity Blues, but I've been hearing a lot of people, because it's been 20 years since 1999, talk about what a great year for movies 1999 was. You know, you had like The Matrix, Fight Club, Eyes Wide Shut, many sort of era-defining movies, Magnolia, and, you know, I'm glad that I'm here the week you talk about Varsity Blues.
Well, this is like the January dumping ground.
Yeah. I connect the release of that movie with having school canceled for 2 weeks because of a huge blizzard in the Northeast. So right after Christmas break, school's out for even longer, and I was just wallowing in video games and cartoons and Simpsons reruns. So it was a good time for me to be alive.
Not seeing Varsity Blues.
Not seeing Varsity Blues. The roads were treacherous.
Man, that Eyes Wide Shut, you know, he tried to warn us. Kubrick tried to warn us.
Yeah, just like with the moon landing 20 years before.
Friend of the show, Jack Allison on Twitter, I saw him joking of like, that if you believe Eyes Wide Shut was him warning us about Epstein things, then you have to follow that down the rabbit hole to saying like, then the moon landing was fake and Kubrick was warning us. Like,
I read an interview with Pauline Kael that came out shortly after Eyes Wide Shut was released, and Pauline Kael really hated it, and she said, I don't get why so many people were willing to cut him so much slack in that movie. I mean, those orgy scenes, they were ridiculous. Who would bankroll those things? They look so expensive. And, you know, I think time has rendered Pauline Kael a bit of a fool.
That reminds me too, Will, your recent tweets of Pauline Kael, the influencer, were very funny.
Oh, thanks very much. Well, I mean, we are recording this as the Toronto International Film Festival is happening. So if you're like me, your Twitter feed is probably full of a lot of tweets like that.
It's a weird mix of that and Tokyo Game Show tweets. So
Yeah, for us, right?
high and low culture once again, meeting on Twitter.
Well, and Will, welcome back. Thanks. You're host of a couple podcasts, including me and Bob. One of our favorites, the Michael and Us podcast with Luke Savage.
Yeah, thanks very much. And glad to be back here on season 10, for God's sake. I mean, it's very, you know, we're at the season now. I'm glad to be here because we're at the season that I was finally old enough to watch them as they were first airing.
Ooh.
And I say that, but it's not like I have any particular nostalgic attachment to the episode we're watching today. Does anybody really? Not to spoil anything.
I think I was enjoying just the high of snow days, so everything was good. I do remember watching this episode and thinking, what is this weird kind of Nickelodeon kid power message in this episode?
Yeah.
Because I had just grown out of Nickelodeon and I distanced myself from that. I'm like, I'm a grown-up man of 16. I'm ready to be an adult, and I don't like kids anymore and their power.
Well, this is where the age difference between us comes in, because I was 10 years old and I remember watching this episode and feeling sort of empowered by it. I very much liked the idea when I was 10 of kids' identity politics. I remember, like, you know, there was a teacher strike at my school, and then after that, a lot of us kids thought, well, what would it be like if we had a kids strike? And we started thinking about like what the logistics of that and the grounds for what a kid strike would be, you know, too much homework or, you know, we don't want to go to school, should be longer recess, that sort of thing. You know, adults are unfair. And as I was watching this episode, I was remembering how sort of radicalized it made me feel as a 10-year-old. I think it's safe to say that I don't have those feelings anymore.
Though your leftism was already coming out and thinking of this organized action.
I guess, but it would be flattering me to say that it was leftism exactly. I would say it was a rather more narcissistic than that.
Well, you know what? Nickelodeon was a powder keg on cable. They were an important player in the kids' rights movement, which has not really made much progress. But now, upon thinking about it, so I've recently just started watching through all of Bob's Burgers. I'm mostly through it now. I started maybe like 8 months ago. This kind of feels like a Bob's Burgers episode almost, with a focus on just the kids.
The kids' shenanigans is a little Bob's Burgers, yeah. In the past, I've used Rugrats as a pejorative on here, though this is actually more of like a Hey Arnold episode.
Yeah,
it feels
yeah, you can go there.
It's a weird mix of references as well, because it's like you have them watching The Village of the Damned, and it ends with a Bye Bye Birdie song. It starts at a baseball game, and then also they kind of take inspiration from a plot of an episode of Leave It to Beaver. Like it's all over the place.
Apparently, it was heavily rewritten. There are obviously a lot of lines that were ADR'd after the fact, including one very obvious one that always irritates me.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess for as troubled as it was in production, I don't think it's a bad episode. It just is a little all over the place, and the ending is strange.
Mm-hmm.
I think they needed to get out, but we can talk about that when we get to it.
That it was a troubled production because it sort of comes across that way to me. I feel like you were mentioning all the various parodies or the references that it had, and looking back at a better earlier Simpsons, it feels like there's a little more specificity to the satire.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's, I don't know, maybe I'm just making this up, but all the references seemed very kind of haphazard in this.
I see that there. I think that comes from the sweatiness of a late rewrite on something too. Like that kind of comes through. There's some funny stuff on the commentary with the writer Larry Doyle. This is another of his that he talks about how he wanted to name a character after a relative, and then everybody fought him on it, and they were like, "Well, why?" He's like, "Well, if you say in the writer's room you care about anything, you'll be attacked by every other writer."
Yeah, I guess it was an uncle who was sick at the time. Based on the tone in the commentary, when he mentions him, it sounds like he didn't make it.
I think so.
Yeah. And there's another person that's named in this episode, too, the technical director of the baseball broadcast, which is also somebody that he knows. So 2 oddly named characters in the beginning of this first act.
I just love Doyle airing the dirty laundry of the writer's room of just like, if you dare to show weakness, you will be pounced upon. But it was a very jocular writer's room then of like, I believe the only woman in there was Julie Thacker. That was Mike Scully's wife, Mike Scully's wife. So I think that led to some of the boys club-ishness of that.
I would imagine Pretty White also, right?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Not until...
No, definitely not a black guy in the room this time. No. I think in season 4, a freelance one was written by an African-American.
Michael Carrington.
Yeah, Michael Carrington. I can't think of anybody else up to this point.
Yeah, I don't think anybody up to this point.
And they all went to Harvard, too. So actually, this is the lesser Harvard season than usual.
There's a Harvard brain drain. They all went to Futurama.
Yeah, all the Harvard.
And that's 95% Harvard. It was kind of a joke on our other podcast series. Like, guess where this new writer went to school? And they're all Harvard buddies.
Now it's more like, is this Futurama writer from the class of 86 or 89? Like... But this opening of the episode here feels very similar to the Dance and Homer episode as well.
Yeah, there were a few season 2 callbacks. At least that's how I saw them in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of episodes I've seen start with a sports game. This is a bit of a Simpsons trope, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And it's also their long on-ramp to the real story. So Act 1 is basically completely unrelated to everything that happens later.
Just getting Homer drunk.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see a bit of an expansion of the Simpsons diegesis here because we learn about a new sports team. I mean, I'm always amazed by how many different things are in Springfield. Have we ever seen the minor league baseball team, the Isotopes, before this?
Yes, they were in Dance and Homer.
Yeah.
Okay.
They've appeared a couple times, but it's been a little while since we got to the Isotopes game.
I apologize to all the hardcore Simpsons fans for missing out this important part of the mythology.
I'm sure they've been back before this. Last reference I can remember was in Lemon of Troy. It's like, you gonna win a game this year? Gonna try. And he throws the ball directly in front of him.
Yes.
But yeah, Isotopes.
I had a local minor league team I went to in Jacksonville. The Jacksonville Suns. Went to a few games of theirs. It's fun at minor league games. They try hard to get you there. Like it's just about like giveaways, free baseballs and hats and whatnot. It's not like the incredibly expensive experience of going to a San Francisco Giants baseball game.
That's what baseball is all about, in my opinion. It should be having fun, not caring too much in the warm weather.
In case you don't know, I think I might have mentioned this on an old podcast, but so these are the Springfield Isotopes. And in the future, there'll be an episode called Hungry, Hungry Homer where they move to Albuquerque. And because of that, Albuquerque's minor league baseball team is named the Isotopes because fans voted for it.
Huh.
So
That's cool.
Yeah, pretty cool.
I found out that my local team has changed their name too. I didn't realize that in 2016, the Jacksonville Suns have become the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimps. Yeah,
Nope.
I don't like it.
That's not intimidating.
I'm not sure I could tell you who my local minor league team is. I'm very
I
ashamed.
think mine is the Scrappers because Youngstown's just a hell world of scrap metal abandoned everywhere.
Guys,
Yeah.
scrapping things. Gotta scrap what's left of the.
Hey, how did you guys like the Cyndi Lauper cameo?
It was weird.
It felt inexplicable. I didn't get. I mean, I know what the joke is, but I don't know why. I guess that's what I want to say.
I would say that more or less sums up my reaction to most of the pop culture gags in this episode.
Yeah, they just seem not rooted in anything. I don't know what Cyndi Lauper was doing in 1999, 98. I don't know if she was having a resurgence or anything. It was just like, oh, she's here. I mean, the animation is good on her. It's very expressive, but no one seems upset by what she's doing.
What exactly is the gag on her? That she sings too long, or that she manipulates the Star Spangled Banner into her own style too much? Like, what are we supposed to kind of take away? What's the satiric point being made about Cyndi Lauper here?
I don't. I mean, she does turn it into Girls Just Want to Have Fun, but I guess the better joke was Bleeding Gums Murphy going on way too long with all the flourishes and everyone falling asleep and multiple cuts within that same song. It was a very funny joke.
Yeah, so maybe that was like they thought they were just going to do another. Maybe in the writers' room they pitched like the gag is the person who overindulges on a song on the national anthem. And then somebody alerted them like, well, we did that 9 seasons ago. Well, what if it was Cyndi Lauper that did it? And the embellishment is she sings it like Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
Also very funny to me that for some reason Cyndi Lauper is performing at this minor league Isotopes game in Springfield.
Yeah, and it's her. It's really her doing
it
too.
It's her, yeah.
Which that feels so odd that they're like, it seems like a diss on Cyndi Lauper. Also that they designed her to look like how she looked in 1984, which is not how she looked in 1999.
That's true. So I looked this up now. She had a new album out in 1998.
That must have been, then she must have said yes to it just as like promotional thing or whatever.
And that is her first holiday album, Merry Christmas, ellipses, Have a Nice Life. So the ellipses are the ...
Okay.
That's not actually written in text, but yeah, that would be her only holiday album, I think, which I've never heard.
And Cyndi Lauper is still with us at 63, and we're being extra cautious these days, so I'm sure she is in wonderful health, but I'm still going to play the anti-death jingle just to be safe here.
Buzzards! I ain't dead yet!
But all the wrestlers she hung out with, unfortunately.
Boy, they actually are all dead.
Yeah.
Everyone in the Goonies video is dead now. It's true. You know what? Actually, no. Iron Sheik's in that, and he's still alive if you call that living. But, you know, Cyndi Lauper, I love her. She's like a friend of the gay community, which I've always liked. I think I saw her drive by at a San Francisco Pride Parade once, and she was like one of the celebrity guests. And also as a wrestling nerd, I really liked her too. Like a big secret of hers that there wouldn't be a WrestleMania without Cyndi Lauper.
That's right.
Like
Really?
Yeah, she is the kindling that started it. Well, not even that. Like she's more that almost is too small for her. So short version is there was the pro wrestler Lou Albano, who she knew growing up.
Mario, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah,
Super
they're only Mario to me.
Yeah.
Well, but before that, he was a pro wrestler, and when she grew up in the 70s in the New York market, he was one of her favorite bad guys. So when she's making the Girls Just Want to Have Fun video, she asks him to be the guest, just to play the dad, and it's supposed to just be an in-joke. That was one of the most popular music videos ever at the time, and so he became a giant star, not as the cheating pro wrestling manager, but as Cyndi Lauper's dad. And so WWF at the time, they got hyper involved with her. They're like, you know what, if you want to make that Goonies music video, we'll give you every pro wrestler. They're going to come in and do it. Like all of them will be here. They then talked her into doing a storyline where she gets attacked by Roddy Piper. And that attack then leads Hulk Hogan to get his to defend Cyndi Lauper and fight Roddy Piper, which then creates the main event for the first WrestleMania, which she is in attendance at. And that caused a huge crossover with the MTV audience. And so without Cyndi Lauper wanting to put Lou Albano in that music video, there would be no WrestleMania.
Wow.
And no modern wrestling.
So she lent them some much needed credibility.
Yeah. And she's not even in their Hall of Fame.
Aw.
Fucking Donald Trump is, but not her. That's my Cyndi Lauper.
I'm glad to know this.
Also, Henry Taylor, the tape time.
Oh no.
Are
we getting to the final tales of the tape?
I don't think I'll have too many more.
Okay, savor everyone out there, everyone.
But this is not my fault in the recording this time. This was another time where in my local market, for whatever reason, the Cyndi Lauper song was cut off until she says, brave, and then the episode started.
Is that because she disrespected the national anthem?
My personal belief is that my local broadcaster in Jacksonville censored it to not show such an un-American thing as mis-singing the song. But yeah, so I didn't hear this joke until the DVDs of it. My tapes didn't have her singing it.
Well, I hope it was worth the wait.
Now these days, I've been to some baseball games and I am tempted to stay seated during anthems, but I seriously am fearing being physically attacked if I were to sit down. So
my friend and I once went to a local wrestling show, just of random local wrestlers, and the show was about to start, so we got up to get a beer because everyone was sitting down. While we're getting a beer, the national anthem doesn't start, but I'm Proud to Be an American starts, and everyone stands up and puts their hand over their hearts, and we're walking back with beer and getting sneered at, like, how dare you?
It's not, man, that song's terrible. That's not the anthem.
No, it's not.
It's not even
I will admit it's catchier.
Yeah.
I love that stand-up part.
Oh, yeah. When you hear that part, you're like, that's why you stand during, I guess, you're like, oh, I'll proudly stand up next to you and defend her still today.
Hypothetically, I am a troop via the power of the song.
We're all troops.
Actually, that song is easier to sing than the Star Spangled Banner. So, I mean, listen, it's your country. You can choose whatever you want. But I would frankly go with the later song.
I would go with the Hulk Hogan theme.
Another WWF fact. Vince McMahon also hates the anthem. He thinks it's not a good song. So he starts WrestleManias with America the Beautiful. Which, that's a good song. I think that's a better song, too, than all the Ramparts we watched gallantly streaming. Boring stuff.
Do all the verses.
Do you think Vince McMahon ever looks at Trump and thinks, why him, not me?
Oh, every day.
Absolutely, yeah. I've said this before, but they are the same person. Like, they're the exact same person.
Slightly different builds.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Vince McMahon is obsessed with exercise, while Donald Trump is the opposite of that. But they're the same, like, they're within a year of the same age. They're the sons of rich guys who act like they're self-made men. They're both the sons of fathers who brutally hated them and treated them awfully. And also, we can't get away from the children of Vince McMahon either. Just like, another difference is Vince McMahon actually uplifted his wife and let her do the political campaigning instead of doing it himself. She failed twice to be senator in Connecticut. She, I think they lost like $40 million on that, which that's nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But anyway, so this episode starts with the family watching a baseball game.
America the brave, home of the brave.
Thank you, Cyndi Lauper. Just a reminder, folks, we do have a baseball game today. Oh, right. I'm Dennis Conroy, and here come your isotopes. Let's welcome 2 new additions to the team, Smash Diggins and Fishbone Walker. Lucky for us, they were sent down from the majors for drug violations.
Oh, stupid isotopes. Hurry up and lose so we can get out of here!
Why do you hate the isotopes so much, Dad?
Because I loved them once and they broke my heart. Let that be a lesson to you, sweetie. Never love anything.
Even you?
Especially me.
But you gotta support the team, Dad. They're already threatening to move to Moose Jaw.
That's right. Like my mother always said, you've got to stick it out, even if you pick the loser. To the bitter end.
Nice implication that Marge hates Homer. This
Yeah.
is a real dark time for their marriage at this point.
It's a bad time for Marge in these seasons in general.
Where they clink their urine test together for just a second, every time I think, are they going to drink it? Like, it's just very odd. Maybe that just me that thinks
They put the punchline in your head.
Yes, yeah. And that's a non-speaking appearance by Lunch Lady Doris there as the tester. Homer's, though, right to have his heart broken because this is the team that fired him for being their mascot 8 seasons previous.
I don't know how sports teams are doing now, but since we live in the Bay Area, I'm sick of being surrounded by winners. It's very, very annoying.
Well, recently our local sports team got defeated by Will's local sports team.
Oh, right. I was a big fan of that. So the Toronto Raptors, correct?
Yes, I do vaguely recall that. I mean, I really wish you could have been here to witness what it was like in the city because it's been, I think the last Stanley Cup that we won was 1967.
Wow.
So all of the city's displaced Stanley Cup energy went into that Raptors victory. The atmosphere in the city was very much like, as you see in this episode where Homer is like, the Isotopes suck. And then all of a sudden he's immediately on the bandwagon when they start winning, that is. Very much like that in Toronto. It was actually quite nice. The city really came alive.
That not as much destruction as happens in Springfield later.
There was some destruction. There was a big, I guess, a block party, I want to say, after that took up the entire downtown. I think there were something like 3 million people out, which is bigger than the actual population of Toronto is. And I believe there were some shootings at that. But I don't know. If you get 3 million people out, inevitably something like that's going to happen.
As someone who will be moving to Canada at some point soon, I use that win to flex my new loyalty to Canada.
Yeah, but Bob, you're moving to British Columbia. That's like the total other side from Ontario.
It's like America Junior.
The whole other country. I don't even know
it. What do you know about Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, Will?
I mean, if you want to know about Canada, you're really asking the wrong guy. I know about my neighborhood, but what I know about Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan is the name.
Okay.
It's a funny name.
I thought it was a joke name they made up for, like it was the new Shelbyville in the show, and I then was surprised to find out it's a real place.
Yeah, and I'm sure the people who live there love it.
If they had internet, they'd be furious with us.
The Toronto's winning really ruined the Warriors. Like, they really wanted that 5th championship in a decade, but...
Yeah, poor guys.
Only 4.
Yeah, I don't want to hurt the feelings of Warriors fans out there, but I feel like that loss was deserved because... the Warriors are doing what all jerk-offs do in the Bay Area, which is once they got successful enough, they abandoned the East Bay and they're moving to San Francisco. And so, like the venture capitalist dickholes who owned the Warriors, they made the Warriors successful enough that they could finally build a stadium in an arena in San Francisco and move the team over there. Which
well, something similar is happening here because, of course, Kawhi Leonard, the man who, if I am to believe my Twitter feed, single-handedly won for the Raptors, couldn't get out of here fast enough after he started getting some U.S. contracts, which is as it always happens in Canada.
Wayne Gretzky all over again.
That's right.
Tragic.
The Simpsons will be right back.
This podcast is not over yet, and we have a big thank you to our guest, Will Sloan, for coming on this week. Everybody should check out his awesome podcast, The Important Cinema Club, and Michael and us. Me and Bob are big fans of those. And if you enjoy the Talking Simpsons podcast, you should really consider supporting it on Patreon. At patreon.com/Talking Simpsons, $5 and up supporters help me and Bob do this as our full-time jobs. Not only for our weekly Talking Simpsons content, but also our sister podcast, What a Cartoon, where we go over a different animated series each week. And if you sign up at the $5 level, for starters, you get every episode of Talking Simpsons and What a Cartoon a week week ahead of time and ad-free. You could be hearing next week's episode right now. You'd also get access to all of our Patreon exclusive content, like interviews with folks who've worked on The Simpsons for over 30 years in some cases, our monthly community podcast, and biggest of all, our exclusive Patreon miniseries where we give the Talking Simpsons treatment to the entire series of The Critic, the first season of King of the Hill, the first season of Futurama, and coming very soon for our $5 patrons, the first 10 episodes of season 2 of Futurama. We've got a ton planned for you there. So much bang for your buck at $5 a month. Sign up at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. Do you love movies like The Bloodening? Then you'll really like our What a Cartoon Movie podcast that we do exclusively for our $10 and up patrons once a month at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. Our $10 premium Patreon subscribers get access to a new What a Cartoon Movie podcast where me and Bob talk for 3 to 4 hours even about a different animated feature film. Our most recent one is Cowboy Bebop the movie. Before that, we did titles like Aladdin, Akira, a Goofy movie, Batman Mask of the Phantasm, and so many more. You can only hear those if you're a $10 and up subscriber, and all that support really helps us out. Please consider going up to the $10 level at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. After all that, we see the pitcher destroy his shoulder in a pitch. That guy,
vicious sound effects.
He's made to look like Raleigh Fingers of classic Oakland Athletics fame.
I didn't know that.
The way his shoulder dangles is really disgusting.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Homer actually is acting a bit like my dad at any sports games we went to. He would not want to stay for the full thing, which I understand it now, Dad. I'm old enough to know that I'd rather, instead of seeing a team win or lose, I'd rather beat the traffic.
I mean, I witnessed what happened to you after your last baseball game.
Oh,
it was
my horrible sunburn?
A near heat stroke, sunstroke conditions.
Baseball is, you forget to put on your own sunscreen. If you go to one baseball game every 2 years, you forget that.
Yeah, you got to figure out where the shady part is.
I don't want to say the friend who bought tickets for us was being cheap, but we did sit in the bleachers that had no shade.
Under a giant magnifying glass.
That they only put on the poor people. And by the way, these cheap seats were $70 at San Francisco Giants. That was the cheap seats. Homer leaves because the game already sucks, and Dan starts ad-libbing a song about Hitler and Mussolini.
Yeah, do you know the fun song?
No,
it's Whistle While You Work, Hitler is a jerk, Mussolini bit his weenie, now it doesn't work. And I'm sure there are more verses about other fascists, but that's about as far as I got.
Okay.
Yeah.
Homer warning us that Hitler was a jerk is more relevant than ever.
It feels like an edgy comment these days.
So I was surprised to find out Babe Ruth only had daughters, and there is no Babe Ruth Jr., let alone third or fourth. But
they got how ugly he was in this Descendant.
But I do think they were correct that he had enough illegitimate children that it's believable that in the Simpsons universe he had some son out there. Like one of his daughters, he adopted. Her name is Julia Ruth Stevens, and he adopted her, but it was just cover for her being the illegitimate child of a mistress.
Okay.
And believe it or not, Julia lived until March of this year.
What?
Dying at 102.
Oh, yeah. What a nightmare.
The Babe Ruth the fourth joke also reminds me of how, the dynasties of entertainment these days, like how the Reitman family is now directing Ghostbusters as they should be, and J.J. Abrams is priming up his kid to enter the business too.
Oh, that's right.
Unfortunately, it doesn't quite work that way with sports. Like with sports, you sort of have to physically be able to do it. Whereas in entertainment, any Reitman can get in there and hold a megaphone and be a traffic cop.
What is the J.J. Abrams child project?
Well, he's just getting started, but so Marvel Comics really wanted J.J. Abrams to write a comic book for them. And J.J. Abrams said, well, if I co-write it with my child, I'll do it. And so Marvel announced it as like J.J. Abrams writes Spider-Man, but it's J.J. Abrams and Chris Abrams or whatever his dumb name is. They presented themselves like sitting next to each other. He's like, oh, my son he's going to be such a great writer. I'm like, this is it. Here's the guy who's going to direct Star Wars in 10 years. Like 100%. He's sitting right there.
I just found out that Joss Whedon's dad was a big player in the Golden Girls circuit.
Oh, yeah.
And also his real name is Joseph.
Boo.
I didn't know that. He's a fraud on 2 counts.
I mentioned that we were recording this as the Toronto Film Festival is happening, and one of the movies playing is a documentary directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, and it's called Dads. It's just sort of a meditation on the concept of having a dad.
Dads.
A lot of celebrities in it talking about their dads, including, of course, Ron Howard. And I feel it was unwise of the festival to program that film.
Yeah, that depressed. I did not know about this. I think she's a good actress. Like,
but I mean, there gets to be she is a good actress, but there gets to be a point where you become so famous and rich that you get so insulated from the world, and you think, "Oh, I have a dad. That's really special and unique."
Mm-hmm.
What if there was a movie about dads? No one has ever done it. It's not a major theme in any movie.
And guys, do you know who my dad is?
Why are we talking about dads?
Celebrities are just so insulated from being told they're wrong that you kind of can just do anything at that point. It reminds me too of how these. This is a whole sidetrack, but Chris Evans seems like a good guy, all that. But I think it's silly that we was like, we need to do something about politics these days. I'm starting the sensible centrist group to just get people talking. I'm like, none of these celebs just join an already existing organization. They always want to start their own thing so they can host the parties.
I'm still part of Alyssa Milano's sex strike, by the way. So hands off, everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious when it got to this point when every celebrity was expected to have an opinion about politics. I mean, I feel like as recently as 10 years ago, I basically didn't know the political views of most celebrities. I mean, you just sort of assume that they're kind of Hollywood liberals for the most part. And then there are one or two people like, I guess you used to know Clint Eastwood was a conservative or that Warren Beatty was a liberal. But all of a sudden now every celebrity is expected to have some big opinions on things.
I guess that's part of your engagement policy, but you also have to do the careful dance of not having too strident an opinion, or else you're like Susan Sarandon.
But it's also irresponsible to have no opinion, because if you're, I think, wasn't it Taylor Swift that everybody was angry at her for not making an endorsement in the last election?
I believe so. Yeah,
because that's irresponsible.
Anyway, back to the.
Wait, I don't think Obama has given his stance on politics yet since he left the presidency.
He's too busy producing Netflix series.
He's like, we need to come together.
Yeah, that's his politics.
His big Netflix series. It'll be funny to see the Obama's documentary sitting right next to the Triggered Much stand-up comedy specials. But anyway, Babe Ruth IV predicts a bunt, which instantly gets him out. That's a cute little gag on how baseball works. They head off after they lost. Homer drives away, and the losers have lost, as I call this next clip.
That'll bring up Babe Ruth IV. Of course, he's no Babe Ruth III, but the franchise is very excited about this illegitimate great-grand bambino. And what's this? He's pointing to the right field bleachers, probably at a dying little boy.
Mom, am I dying?
No, of course not.
Is he, Mom? You can tell me.
No.
Now he's pointing to the ground. Is he indicating a bunt? Yes, he's bunting.
Good hustle, kid.
No, it doesn't work. So who won? The losers?
No, they lost.
Losers.
But only by 2 points, and they didn't resort to stealing bases like the other team, so it's kind of a moral victory.
With a little mental relief, they might even make the playoffs.
You'll be in your cold, cold grave before that ever happens.
Homer, would you please stop talking about the children's graves?
I gotta say, you play that clip, and I'm starting to think maybe I've been too hard on this episode. Lots of laughs.
There's lots of good lines. Yeah. As someone who doesn't follow sports or really know about them very much, I just realized you're not supposed to announce a bunt. A bunt is a surprise play.
That's
the joke. I mean, I got the whole pointing to the thing, the Babe Ruth pointing where the ball will go, but
no, this stuff's funny. I think it loses a little steam when the kids take over and it becomes an R Gang parody. But no, I like Homer's. Did the losers win? No, they lost. Losers. That's good. This bit always strikes me as odd that like this is the only time ever that Lisa appears to not only enjoy baseball but understand it at like a higher level than most people engage with it. Like I don't think has ever since or before had an opinion on the game of baseball. Like knowing middle relief stuff and going over the scorecard, like that's baseball nerdery right there.
Well, I guess maybe just like in Lisa the Greek, she learns about sports to interact with Homer, just so they have something to talk about.
Yeah, I guess their skills from football are transferable. After that scene, we then have a quick cut to 6 months later, which that is very out of left field too, not to not make a baseball reference intentionally.
Yeah, I always like to imagine like what were the episodes that unfolded in that 6 months in between.
I guess if that was 6 months, then and it's at the end of the baseball season, then that would be like March when the first scene happens, and it's like October in the last scene.
So did the episode where Homer's on the sub, did that happen in between?
Homer lost his job, got hired by the Navy, and then got discharged all in the same time. And that also means the Soviet Union is back in the world of The Simpsons since that episode.
Yeah.
Homer arrives at the bar and he finds out, just the way me and Bob find out, that sports is happening by going to a bar and seeing lots of people at it.
Well, I can't have a conversation in here, so.
Yeah. That's one of our favorite pizza places. Every time we're like, all right, time to go here. Major sports are probably over, but then we live in such a liberal college town that there actually was a full bar of people to see the Women's World Cup, which I was, that's a progressive win there, but I just wanted to eat pizza alone.
I'm very disappointed in that my local pizza place that I love and go to a lot, they always used to show Turner Classic Movies on every TV, like throughout the entire opening and closing of the restaurant. But recently people complain too much, so now they show sports.
Boo.
Yeah.
Oh.
That breaks my heart.
That's terrible.
I have half watched so many old movies at that bar. It's great.
That sucks.
I like the idea of people going there and like seeing, Humphrey Bogart on a TV and just getting mad, like angry and complaining.
One time, I can actually, that's a joke, but I can see that happening in real life because one time I was with my family at Thanksgiving and my sister, who is not nearly as cultured as me, of course, we were all watching Dial M for Murder on whatever TCM or whatever was showing it, my family and I. She walks into the room, looks at the TV, and she's like, "This movie's old." And that was all she had to add. Like, she was alarmed. Like, she wanted to let us know something was wrong. So
it's funny to think that that's probably how like 90% of people are when they're confronted with old media.
Yeah, it's like,
I think a lot of people look at a movie like that and they think it's almost like, why would you watch this? That's like having an old iPod.
Yeah. It's like she wanted to let us know the movie had expired.
Yeah.
We were
there
in
have been
danger.
updates to this since then.
I think I probably only watched that movie because it was a reference in The Simpsons. I think actually I did a whole Hitchcock, I wouldn't have called it a binge back then, but over like a month we rented every Hitchcock film that was at the Blockbuster just because I noticed The Simpsons was referencing Hitchcock all the time, so I needed to know these things.
I did that as a teen just to get all the references, and I enjoyed tons of the movies.
Yeah, me too.
Did you watch Citizen Kane that way?
Yeah, I think I saw that in one of my first film classes in college.
Me too. Yeah, it was a first film class thing, but that also had the same click. Oh, here's every reference on The Simpsons. Makes sense now. Yeah,
because I think they've done pretty much every scene from that movie in The Simpsons in some form or another.
I think so. Even the little things like Joseph Cotton with his torn up program, flipping it back and forth. They even did that. By the way, though, Michael Nuss and Citizen Kane, that was a really, really good one.
Oh, thanks very much. Yeah, it was nice to watch a good movie for a change.
Instead of just AstroTurfed Beto O'Rourke content.
Oh my God. I am living in the Democratic primaries.
God, I don't envy you in that. That documentary was made before he became the swearing guy.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. Well, for people who don't know, on my podcast, we just watched a documentary about Beto O'Rourke's run in Texas, which I think it's called Running with Beto, I want to say, and it was produced by the Pod Save America guys.
Mm-hmm.
And It's already evaporating from my memory, but one of the things that's sort of interesting about it is by the time we watched, like Beto O'Rourke's appeal, it was so enormous about a year ago, and then his popularity evaporated almost instantly. So it feels like it's like a relic the second it came out. And it's interesting too because the documentary ends on election night with Beto obviously losing very narrowly to Ted Cruz, and Beto seems utterly untroubled by this. He seems totally fine because he knows that's okay. The presidential run is happening right after this.
God, just such a waste. He actually, like, in another Senate race in Texas, he'd have a real chance.
Yeah, it's not too late.
Yeah.
Not too late.
I mean, I suppose I think you guys have said on the thing too before of like, well, even if you don't win, you get famous enough from the presidential run, you just get another swing at it anyway.
Or speaking tours or whatever.
Yeah.
Or he gets to be, Secretary of State for President Biden or whatever.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
Hey, don't shoot the messenger.
Hey, all we need is a couple more eye bleeds, and we're gonna have candidate Bernie. I want to believe this. Just
yeah, maybe
one more bleeding eye.
He's got to bleed from at least 3 head holes to shake anybody.
Be fully taken out. But speaking of bleeding from head holes, that's what Homer thinks Mo did at the start of this next clip.
What's the hubbub? Did Mo finally blow his brains out?
Quiet, we're watching the Isotopes.
Shut it off, they're losers.
Where you been? The Isotopes are on fire.
Yeah, that sniper at the All-Star game was a blessing in disguise.
Now we're in the championship game.
Championship?
Woo! Topes rule!
Well, here's a diehard fan. Sir, your beloved Isotopes are about to make history. Any thoughts?
It's a great team, Kent. You never gave up hope. I want to thank Jesus and say hi to my special lady, Marge. We did it, baby! Woo! Woo!
The inspiring words of a fan who'll always root for the home team. Even if they lose this game.
They lost! Those losers!
No. The game's not over.
Woo! Not over! Woo!
There you have it. Woo.
Something I want to say about this. Homer comes across extremely badly in this episode throughout. Not just because of the fact that he's a craven bandwagon jumper, but also he seems to have been rooting for Mo to have killed himself.
Yes. Yeah. He's been waiting for so long.
So we have like a suicide joke followed by a mass shooting joke.
Yes. Yeah.
And I believe I was reading on the wiki that joke was taken out of syndicated versions of that episode while the Baltimore sniper thing was happening, or maybe like a London sniper thing was happening.
There's so many snipers
in the early 2002s.
Yeah.
I mean, I miss the snipers. They were creative. They had patience. I'm sick of this spray and pray crap.
I remember the DC sniper. That was a big deal for about. God, it just feels so ancient, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's so many corpses ago. It really is. I mean, that joke is so cruel, but I do love the All-Star Game joke. And the lip sync is way off, so it's a late addition. But normally I wonder what they had before might have been funnier. But I really love that Mo is celebrating that a sniper at the All-Star Game won the Isotopes.
That's the only reason they're winning too. I mean, Homer does come off bad. I think it's the most drunk driving on screen with him to date, and possibly they didn't do much more of that afterwards. But there's just like minutes of drunk driving.
Yeah, he's Homer overall this is one of his darker moments, I think, and his destruction of school, which he doesn't remember at all. But yeah, and his lying to the camera with Kent. That I really love that. It captures the local guy at bar who gets interviewed, who is such a bandwagon fan. I like to think Homer stole those clothes off of someone outside instantly and put them on.
I mean, why not? He's such a monster in this episode. A complete sociopath. Why wouldn't he just beat up somebody in an alley?
Steal his clothes and just walk in. Yeah, no, that sounds like our Homer these days in the show.
I guess they dropped that whole pickled egg lottery system for designated driving.
Well, this is a special occasion.
That's true.
It's the big game. You just got to let the Topes. And as they are celebrating when the Topes win, they get the home run. It's Topes win, and we get to hear about Krempowski, the relative of another Larry Doyle relative.
Oh yeah, the technical director.
Yes.
So he's like going. Then he announces who the technical director was.
Barney then grabs a keg and just sprays everybody with beer. They all start getting drunk.
Sprays Brockman out of the bar with it.
I've never had ramaki, I don't think.
I looked up what it was. I've never had it. Apparently, it's a tiki-style appetizer. It's water chestnuts and pieces of chicken liver wrapped in bacon and marinated in soy sauce and either ginger or brown sugar. So I'm not a big fan of organ meat. Can't go there.
I mean, if you wrap it in bacon, though, it's hard to get it wrong. Though I'm also not a fan of water chestnuts. Maybe I need to open my palate some more to appreciate it. But yeah, they go on a bender. I do like the gag of Lenny and Carl punching each other in the face as they both say isotopes. And also I like that Carl really has the energy of a drunk friend who tries to make a reference that everyone ignores by saying like, "Hey, who's on first?" Right? Nobody references
it. It is the same drunk driving crew from the New York episode too, right? Lenny, Carl, Barney, and Homer. Yeah.
Though this time Barney's drunk with them.
Yeah.
I think this also is in the time where they decided Homer is like a party monster who just gets drunk and destroys things instead of I don't know. I never thought of him as that type of drunk on the show until these seasons.
Yeah, what are some of the recent examples of this?
Well, definitely in the New York one, he got super drunk and, well, he was like flying around and saying, "I'm Peter Pantsless," but...
And then there was the Prohibition episode too, right?
Yeah. He got, though he's not like doing destruction. Like he's not destroying things while drunk until then. This might be his first really destructive drunken episode.
Well, there's the Treehouse of Horror episode. I think it's the Omega Man, where, I mean, he's not drunk in it, but his I guess, ideal reality after the world is destroyed is him like running around, like partying by himself and mutilating corpses and
dancing naked in the church.
Yeah. I guess he's acting. I think they forgot that was if they're like, well, we did that with Homer, we can do other stuff. Like that is a Halloween episode where you're allowed to go farther with the character and people don't mind as much. I think just in the escalation of jokes, you make Homer more and more sociopathic as it goes to surprise people. And if you go on long enough, eventually your lead character is a gigantic monster.
Yeah, has Homer killed anybody in the course of this show?
Oh, plenty of people.
19.
So he causes a pileup, I remember, in Homie the Clown.
That's my first go-to. Yeah.
Because
I'm talking like directly murders someone.
It's had to have happened up to this point.
He drove Frank Grimes to doing an action that would kill himself.
We just watched an episode where he ran over Don Rickles.
Yeah, he did.
And Joan Rivers.
Though both said they were okay. And he watched that guy drown. He did do that.
Yeah.
The alcoholic who fell in the water. He watched that. So death through inaction.
By neglect, which is a criminal act.
Very troubling.
Well, also speaking of crimes and all their destruction, I think them getting naked in the elementary school to shower, that's indecent exposure. That could get them marked as like sex criminals.
Another painful, just cartilage ripping noise when Barney falls in the shower too.
Oh yeah, I got to give it to their sound department for getting that all together there. And so Homer wakes up. He's got a slightly new twist on his usual hangover design with his red eyes in it and just his empty stares. It's so our next episode we're gonna do is actually we're gonna do the pilot for Family Guy because that airs next, and that's in the Simpsons universe. And it struck me that this is the same plot. This moment in this episode of The Simpsons at the end of the first act, it's also in the first episode of Family Guy where he is hung over in front of his family at the breakfast table.
Yeah.
All the same. Like it hit.
Except it's heightened in that he's laying on the table, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, if it's nothing if not a Homer joke heightened. Like that's the whole point.
Well, I take your point, but I think you'll find that there are no other similarities between Family Guy and The Simpsons.
I think the writer for this episode on the commentary, he mentions the goalpost exploding.
Yeah.
And he says also seen on Family Guy. Yeah. So there are some fun digs at Family Guy on the Simpsons commentaries.
This is why I was so upset when they finally did a Simpsons Family Guy crossover episode. It's like, do you people have no principles anymore?
I got to say, I mean, technically, every time I get enraged about this, Henry reminds me, technically it is a Family Guy production.
Yes.
But I did watch it, and I can't even talk about it on this network.
I don't like Bart being in the same room as a rape joke that
Yeah.
happens. I don't like that. I blame Seth MacFarlane's success. They felt like they could knock him when he was a guy who had a canceled show who seemingly would never get another show. But once he became a very successful filmmaker and television producer,
A movie star.
They decided like, well, we gotta be friendly with him. So let's do a crossover.
You forgot recording artist, Henry.
Yes, and his sister too. Like we talk about the nepotism, like his sister, who I mean, she's a fine singer, but like he just cast her in multiple of his shows and put out an album of her singing. Like Rachel McFarlane sings. Oh boy.
I don't know. It's like if the Beatles did a guest track on a Monkees album.
That's a great way of putting it. Maybe if we hit like, let's say $30,000, I will deign to talk about that special.
I mean, in about 5 years, I think we'll get to that point chronologically.
With inflation, what does that even mean?
So Homer tries to remember what happened, but he just gets old-timey video footage, and then we have a scene missing gag, which...
That is referenced a lot online.
Oh, yeah, that is a good one. But though it's like, I thought it was a Nine Inch Nails Closer video reference when I was a teen. And then as Homer comes to and realizes he can't remember, he calls Lisa Big Maggie, which I thought that was cute.
That is good.
But the destruction is apparent to the news media.
Hello, Big Maggie.
Yes, yes, yes! Someone trashed the school.
What the dillio?
Where this morning the 3 R's stand for rowdiness, ransacking, and irresponsibility. Any suspects, Chief?
None. That's why we're jumping to the conclusion that this was the work of no good punk kids.
Kids?
Therefore, effective immediately, I am imposing a curfew. Any kid caught on the street after dark will be shot. Or returned to their parents, as the situation may warrant.
Whoa. Curfew?
Serves you little punks right. Maybe next time you'll think before... Oh, my God! Look what those run kids did to my car! Oh!
God, you keep playing these clips, and I'm just laughing at every single one of them.
Marge saying, what the dillio, that later they mock NBC sitcoms like Just Shoot Me and all that, but
yeah,
Marge saying that it was no different from that NBC sitcom style.
I think they're doing like weird meta commentary on sitcoms because later, so we have the just Don't Go There sitcom in this, but then later Hibbert's like, you said it, girlfriend, or whatever. Like, I don't know what they're doing. I guess it's funny that Marge has picked up on a weird catchphrase from TV.
On the commentary, they mentioned they had to heavily coach Julie to say what the dillio the correct way.
Dillio didn't stick with us for very long.
No. I think even by the time it was in this episode, nobody said it anymore. The gag is like in 3 years later, it would have been Marge saying like in his house or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, barf. But I do like the plot point that the cops and the media work together to blame children when it's really the mainstream violence of a championship celebration that they're all ignoring. I do like that.
Yeah, they go after society's most vulnerable and oppressed peoples.
If only they were doing like broken window checks as well.
Yeah.
But and Wiggum though has an incredible amount of power to impose a curfew on his own and just
I mean, Wiggum seems a little out of character in this episode, not only for how much power he has, but for how decisively he wields it.
Yeah, that's
normally
right.
he's much lazier than this.
Yeah.
He's having to work
a very kind of evil Orwellian figure in this episode.
Yeah, actually, his billboard is very Big Brother. That's true. As we come back from commercial break, the kids remark on all the things that, all the rights they have. We get a cute little kids' rights section here.
The cops can't just slap a curfew on us. We have rights.
Sure you do. You have the right to remain silent.
That was cold-blooded, Marge.
Yeah.
But it's not fair. Adults always blame kids for everything.
Well, if kids are so innocent, why is everything bad named after them? Acting childish, kidnapping, child abuse.
What about adultery?
Not until you're older, son.
That's a really good joke.
Homer approves of him having adultery, just only as an adult. He doesn't have to.
We're definitely getting to the part where, imagine 10-year-old me feeling very kind of hyped up and empowered. And Bart saying we have rights would have resonated very strongly with me.
Yeah, that stuff would get me to like when I was 10, I saw Home Alone, and that's what jazzed me up for the empowerment of children.
Oh yeah,
good time. And
I would watch Home Alone and think, God, wouldn't it be so fun if burglars came to my house and I could, throw a brick at them or whatever.
Just kill these guys, just murder them on your house with stand your ground laws.
Yeah, suffer post-traumatic stress disorder probably from watching a grown man die in front of you.
We just burn him up in the giant stove in your mansion. Who cares?
We said it before, but we support those burglars now because he just lives in a mansion. They got too much stuff. Like just raw. I'm on their side now.
Oh yeah, the burglars are probably very poor, and they probably have addiction issues that Chris Columbus and John Hughes don't get into.
And they're just breaking into empty houses. These are non-violent crimes.
And they have a bit and they stick to it.
Yeah.
The Wet Bandits.
John Hughes, the writer of Home Alone, was, of course, a Republican in real life. I think all your listeners need to be made aware of this.
I wasn't aware of it.
I can see that, though.
The creator of Long Duck Dong.
I saw Ben Stein being interviewed once, and he offhandedly mentioned that. So if the fact is good enough for Ben Stein, it's good for me.
I mean, he's right about evolution, and he's right about that.
Yeah, there you go.
And so the kids, they're being taken off the street. There's another season 2 callback too there.
Yeah, it's from Itchy and Scratchy and Marge, although in season 2 episodes, a much longer pan across the entire neighborhood. Here, it's like a little echo of that. I don't know if they remembered that they did that before, or if they're intentionally calling back to a similar scene.
I mean, they're using
I think they probably are, because it's the same music and it's the same pan. In contrast to that scene in Itchy and Scratchy and Marge, in that one, it's apparently this very novel thing. Like, the kids are never outside. They're always inside watching TV. And so that episode has this idyllic vision of what if everyone got outside and rediscovered themselves. Whereas in this one, it's positing that, in fact, the kids of Springfield are outside all the time.
Mm-hmm. Always doing stuff.
Yeah.
Boy, you're poking another hole in this one. You're right.
Yeah, I actually immediately regret saying that.
Oh, no.
I listen to myself say that, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, come on.
No, where you're in good company to make that.
I think there was only a curfew for minors where I grew up after I became an adult, but it never would have affected me because I was not a go outside at night child. I was like, well, the outside is not a 1,000-hour Japanese RPG for me to play. What's in it for me?
Yeah. No, I very much stayed indoors most of the time, so I don't know what the curfew was in my area until only in 17 or something I started to befriend the bad kids who talked me into staying out past my personal curfew with my parents. I do like the drawing of Martin with his little coin purse. I think that's cute.
Yeah.
I like that drawing.
And we see the return of Big Chief Crazy Cone, formerly Big Chief Crazy Cone,
right.
Native American ice cream.
I forgot that was a recurring gag.
You can barely see it on the side of the ice cream truck.
Seems like they just pulled it out of the model sheets of we drew an ice cream truck before, right? Let's just get that one. And Wiggum references previous guest stars U2 with his Octoon baby. And I'm glad, I almost remembered it as Kearney was standing there, but he wasn't. So I'm really glad Kearney.
Good choice.
Because Kearney, as we all know, he's in his late 30s.
He's got a child who sleeps in a drawer.
He can be wherever he wants to be. It is also funny to hear Nancy Cartwright pretend to be Hibbert with the fake ID.
I think Nancy ends up imitating most of the other voice actors through Bart or other characters.
Oh, yeah. We go back to home. Homer is abandoning the kids to go to the carnival. I wonder if it's the same carnival him and Bart worked at the previous season. Also, I mean, the idea of a carnival with no children, that sounds awesome. I want that.
His hat is not crazy enough for me in this scene.
The closest I've had to this is going to Epcot Center, which is the least popular one with kids. So it is the best parents zone of Disney World, I think. Man, that game, they're going to play board games, and the game of citizenship is more relevant than ever today.
Oh, God.
But the board game thing, it reminds me of how my adult friends, who are into board games, I want to play regular board games with them, but my adult friends, when it's hangout nights and let's play a game, they're always the lie to each other games and trick each other ones. I just don't like those.
I enjoy more elaborate board games, but I was just meeting a new group of people recently, and that is the game that broke out about 20 minutes after meeting all these people. I'm like, I'm in over my head. I can't do this. And it was like the werewolf game, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I will not hold it against them. It is a fun. It can be a fun game, but it's not for me, and especially not if I'm meeting people for the first time.
I am not a fan of playing board games with other adults. I think whenever I'm at somebody's house and they break out the board games, my heart sinks a little bit. I would rather just talk over a nice drink.
Yeah, I understand that. I have friends who have sold me on playing some board games, but the ones that are just most anxiety inducing to me are just like, one of you people has to lie to everybody else and trick them. And I'm just like, God, this like that's like the mind fuckery of the adult board games now. I don't like that.
A few years ago, I was at a house where for a board game night, and somebody busted out this game. I think it was called Monty Python Flux or something, where it's like it was a official Monty Python branded board game, and you go around on the board and you get a card where it would say something like taunt a player in a silly French accent.
Oh no,
God.
Well, somebody please literally murder me right now. I do not want to be doing this.
This keeps happening. I don't know why with groups of new people. Like when I first moved to California, I had 0 friends. I moved away from everyone I knew, and I was like, I gotta find like a board game group or somebody to hang out with. So I found one, and the first game we played was like a bunch of improv games.
Oh God!
Like a board game where you land on spaces and do improv games. The first thing I had to do was rap. Like 15 minutes after meeting a new group of people, I wanted to die.
Give me Spin the Bottle. Give me Twister. Give me the classic. Give me Never Have I Ever. Those are my kinds of games.
And yes, I did rap.
They're going to play Hippo in the House, and there's a missing hippo piece, which that also is they kind of repeat this joke in the next episode, Sunday Cruddy Sunday, where they're doing crafts and there's the missing feet for the eggs.
Yeah, I love that Vincent Price joke, though.
It's a better joke than that. I mean, I like Hippo in the House as a little gag, but the missing piece thing reminds me of like when you pull out Mousetrap and you realize like the one thing is missing.
I've never successfully played Mousetrap.
Yeah, it takes too long to set up.
I think I properly played it a couple times with my mom and brother, but eventually you just build it on your own and you don't wait to play through the game to build it.
I mean, there's a reason that the games people play are like, poker, simple where you can just hold it in your hand.
After a crappy night with board games, the kids are reflecting on their sadness. We get to hear, I like Milhouse having to hear his mom's problems. Like it can suck as a kid when your parents want to tell you things they probably shouldn't tell you about their unhappiness. I won't go more into that on my own personal thing, but
I agree.
But also with Skinner, they are going back to continuity. That Skinner does have a large behind.
That's true, Big Butt Skinner.
Yeah, Big Butt Skinner. I mean, the way they draw his butt when that giant tomato hits it in season 4, that's he should be proud of that shapely butt, not sad about his metabolism changing.
Butts were not in 1999.
Yeah.
I think he looks pretty svelte in this episode.
They don't draw his butt wide enough. It's for this gag.
We'll find some consensus on this, I think.
And as the kids are suffering, Wiggum is opening up a new billboard.
That ought to show little Timmy and Tammy scumbag who's in charge around here.
Gee, Chief, all those gears and motors must have cost a fortune.
Well, you gotta spend money to make money, Lou.
I just that makes no sense when you're a cop.
Yeah, it just goes, So I guess that's so that is taken from a Leave It to Beaver episode in which the beaver, the main character, he wants to know how the soup billboard works because steam comes out of it.
Yes.
And he gets stuck in it, and it's a big situation with antics.
Yeah, I skipped around and watched it today. Some like basically 3 minutes of it, and that mean old Eddie Haskell tricks the beeve into going into the soup bowl. That's all it is. I mean, he just gets tricked, but that's not really the plot of this. But it does really date it that they got it from Leave It to Beaver, which like even if that had reruns on Nick at Night as a kid, and I'd watch anything on Nick at Night, I would not watch Leave It to Beaver.
I mean, it got a movie, but not an ironic movie like Brady Bunch or Addams Family or whatever.
So, whenever I'm talking to you guys about Simpsons episodes, I feel myself getting very kind of annoyingly nitpicky, and I'm going to do it again.
Welcome aboard.
Because when I see the Leave It to Beaver parody, and I see the Our Gang parody, and then I see a Village of the Damned parody, I think why these things in relation to each other? Why these things in relation to this story of sort of like organized, radicalized children? Are these necessarily the cultural touchstones that make the most sense for this story? I mean, far be it from me to tell, the writer's room of Harvard boys how to write their show, but there's something about it doesn't quite click to me.
Thematically, I can see how the Village of the Damned stuff does apply in some way. It's about adults being afraid of children and children having spooky powers. It does connect to the plot, but other things do seem unrelated and like sort of like time wasters in a way, where here's a fun bit,
here's a fun parody. Over the weaker parts of the story. Yeah, I think the Village of the Damned at least fits a little bit, though it also is very out of left field that they would advertise on primetime television that a film from 1960 is going to be at a drive-in.
Well, this is also curious to me because it's being marketed on primetime television as this incredibly transgressive, very gruesome horror film that had been suppressed for so long because and it's so notorious, and it's literally called The Bloodening, and the thing that they're parodying is Village of the Damned, which is not that kind of movie, really. I don't know. Something doesn't quite fit there.
Yeah, and the way it's being advertised is via William Castle style marketing to people in 1999.
Yeah,
so it's bizarre.
And why would current kids get excited about this?
Yeah, why would Bart and Lisa? Well, the advertising, at least, of calling it here, I have an in-universe explanation I'm going to pitch here. That the folks at Sony TriStar got the rights to this musty old movie, which was called something else. They then call it The Bloodening and make this ad to trick the kids of the 90s to go and see it. Like that. That's my guess now.
All right, I'll buy it.
But
I think that would have worked a little more if one of these kids had said something about how much this movie sucks and is boring.
Yeah, instead they all really love it, which when I would watch movies like this, I have not seen in its entirety Village of the Damned.
I haven't either.
But when I'd see movies like this on Mystery Science Theater, they would bore the shit out of me if I saw them without comedy puppets talking over it. Like, I would not have loved these movies when I was 10, especially actually the kids reacting this way to a black and white film really doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a way to make a Village of the Damned parody work with this story. And I mean, I guess that it's introduced as they're violating their curfew to go see a movie at the drive-in. So there's a reason it's set up this way, to advance the story. But something about the combination of the story and this target doesn't quite land for me.
But I do like them targeting NBC's must-see TV sitcoms.
Yeah.
I do like that.
They get that kind of late 90s NBC like white smugness.
Whatever was sandwiched between Seinfeld and Friends, just like the shows that had the biggest ratings ever just because they were in the must-see sandwich.
Yeah,
like The Single Guy, Veronica's Closet,
Caroline in the City.
Yeah.
Everybody was talking recently about how Game of Thrones was like one of the last communal experiences, one of those last shows that everybody watched together. And the last episode of Game of Thrones got 17 million viewers. And I guarantee that any given episode of Caroline in the City probably got 25 million viewers.
Yeah.
You could be right.
I think you're right.
It brought America together.
Yeah.
And the design of Don't Go There, I mean,
I love the guy leaning on the Don't Go There.
Yeah.
Don't go there, right back.
And it looks like Central Perk too, where they're sitting in. And,
Yeah.
And the character designs are that kind of like young and sexy and cool look of a NBC sitcom character.
It's funny in that it's Hank Azaria, who is friends with Matthew Perry. Did Hank Azaria audition for Friends?
He wanted to be Joey.
Yeah, I thought so.
He pushed hard to be Joey and couldn't be it. Like it's part of the suffering he went through in the 90s was that he was married to the Oscar winner that year, and his best friend was Matt LeBlanc, and he felt like he was just some cartoon nobody, and it was driving him crazy.
Aw.
Yeah.
He's happy now. He's fine. Oh yeah, wait, no, it's not LeBlanc. It's Perry. Perry's
That's what I
his
meant.
best
That's what I
friend,
meant.
Matthew
Yeah.
Perry. Yeah. No, I said LeBlanc, but yeah, it was.
Hey, he had Studio 60, right? He was in that.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful show.
You know what? Actually, there was that reboot of The Odd Couple he was on with Tom Lennon as well.
And that was on for seasons.
I don't think it's on anymore.
I think it was only one season, and it may not have even made it the whole season.
But why don't we take us back to 1999 and hear a little of Don't Go There.
There is one thing we could do. Please, no! It's prime time!
You robbed me of my manhood!
That's petty theft!
Don't go there! Don't go there, we'll be right back.
Oh, no, it won't. Wait, there's a commercial! Oh, yeah.
40 years ago, a film appeared that was so shocking, so terrifying, it was sealed in a concrete vault deep beneath the earth. But even the new management of Sony TriStar could not contain the pure evil of the bloodening.
In the next clip here, I do like how Milhouse reacts on the phone. Like, that's, I think, good acting of pretending you're watching something that you're not when you're asked. I like in this little clip here.
Milhouse, do you see what's on Channel 6? Yeah, it's really something.
A registered nurse trained in the treatment of terror will be on duty during the showing of The Bloodening.
Now playing at the Springfield Drive-In. After dark.
Milhouse, spread the word. We're seeing this movie tonight. That's right. We're breaking curfew.
So I'm sorry to bring us back to Caroline in the City, but
yes.
I was kind of distracted because I was actually looking up the ratings for Caroline in the City, and Will is correct. So Caroline in the City was the number 4 television show of the 95-96 television season. Number 1 was ER, number 2 was Seinfeld, number 3 was Friends. And it indeed reached an average of 17 million viewers.
Oh, hell yes.
Yes.
That makes me so happy. That proves once and for all, America prefers Caroline in the City to Game of Thrones.
Exactly. It has just as much cultural relevancy as George R.R. Martin's masterpiece.
The numbers don't lie.
I was a big Caroline in the City fan.
I was there for season 1. Then they got rid of the cartoon, so what are you going to do?
It's just like in that Bob Newhart one where it was a comic book. He was a comic book writer for the first season, and then in the second season, they're like, none of this comic book shit, and they sent him to a greeting card factory. That was before it was cool to be about comic books. I believe it was called Bob. That sitcom, the Bob Newhart 90s sitcom, is really weird in that it was co-created by Mark Evanier, who was a best friend of Jack Kirby. So it's basically a Jack Kirby sitcom.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
But starring Bob Newhart.
There's a good, well, you know, it's you may not think it's good, but there's a movie from the early 90s called The Ambulance starring Eric Roberts, where Eric Roberts, you know, it's kind of a schlocky horror movie, and Eric Roberts plays a comic book artist at Marvel Comics.
Ooh.
And Stan Lee is in it in a very prominent supporting role.
Wow.
And, you know, back then, I guess it was just very easy to get Stan Lee and Marvel in your movie and have the Marvel Comics offices be this site of like, oh, what's a quirky job that Eric Roberts can have in a horror movie?
Holy crap. Believe it or not, I've never heard of this before. I now feel like Bart in this episode. I have to see this movie.
Check it out, The Ambulance. It's about a killer ambulance. You'll like it.
Oh, man. So it's like Christine, but in an ambulance?
Yeah, very well, similar. It's not like anybody's driving the ambulance. It's like the ambulance has sentience and it operates on its own. And yeah, Eric Roberts has to fight it.
Nice. All right, I'm checking this out.
It's sort of like the Joker of cars.
Oh God.
What if an ambulance hurt you instead of helped you? Think about
Yes.
it. Pretty twisted, eh?
Yeah.
You're still in Wheels bits.
I know. It's a good bit. I love your bits.
I love it. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Have you seen that yet? Has it come to Toronto yet?
The Joker, well, it just played at the festival. I mean, I'm sure I will see the Joker. It feels a bit anticlimactic. I mean, there's this whole discourse happening among critics who have seen it. And I feel like they're all going to tire themselves out by the time the movie actually opens.
Well, I think the reviews came out too early, and it was like premature discourse on it. If the movie's out October 4th in wide release, so it's like we're all tweeting ourselves out about it too soon.
Yeah.
I
feel like I've seen it.
We got to take our time on that discourse. Well, I mean, in that you've seen King of Comedy and Taxi Driver, you have seen it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Though I think, with this, after it won the Golden Lion, I'm like, what if it does win Best Picture? What happens then?
Well, I mean, I guess we'll have to deal with that when we come to it, but it very much could. And then, there's a rip in the space-time continuum, and this horrible ordeal we call life will finally end for everyone.
Thank God.
I'm very much rooting for the Joker.
You just love this chaos. But another thing that really sticks this in 1999 is the joke that a wussy kid watches Teletubbies.
I mean, Teletubbies jokes were fresh.
Mm-hmm.
I think that joke would still be funny today, honestly.
Yeah, I think it'd be funnier that they'd still be watching. I would guess Teletubbies must air somewhere. But yeah, I mean, it was all in the news in 99 because it was making kids gay or whatever was what Jerry Falwell Sr. was saying.
Tinky Winky or whatever was gay.
Mm-hmm. I think it did turn Jerry Falwell Jr. into had some effect on him.
Allegedly.
I don't want to get sued. This is a joke parody. But that story of Jerry Falwell Jr. and that pool boy is pretty funny.
Sometimes you just befriend a pool boy and give him a lot of money.
You give him $1 million. You set him up in a new job. He hangs out with you and your wife.
That's called being a good Samaritan. You ever heard of that? Read the Bible.
Christ told us of this. It's true. So the kids all head out. Nelson's mom is looking for Skoal. She's out of Skoal, which, if you don't know, that is a brand of tobacco chew.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know it at the time because my dad was a Levi Garrett man, and that's the only brand I knew of.
I have no... wow.
Levi Garrett is the tan bag that has like an old-timey building on it in black and white.
So it's literally a pouch.
Yes, yeah, it is a real
Skoal's
pouch.
a little can. I know it because in high school, kids would whack the can against their hand like that.
Okay.
To get their dip on or whatever.
See, now my dad was more of a chaw guy out of a pouch, which I feel like I guess you probably still can buy that stuff. But if smoking is less big now, I got to think chewing is even more unpopular with people under 50.
Let's bring it back.
You just need one hip YouTube star to make it a meme, and it'll be back.
We need the vape version of chew.
Boy, what would that be?
It's a gobstopper.
An
gobstopper.
And so everybody heads off to the bloodening. We get a life insurance joke, which reminds me of the MST3K Screaming Skull.
I wrote that
episode.
down. Yeah, that's such a great sketch where the movie or the trailers promise. I think there's an intro to the movie where it's like, if you die while watching this, we'll pay for your coffin.
Yes.
And there's a great sketch where they call and it's very disappointing and they have to pay for a coffin themselves.
Yes, this is drive-in life insurance here.
Due to the likelihood of fear-induced heart attacks, we're offering all patrons $1 million life insurance policies.
Life insurance? Will I be able to borrow against the equity?
I don't know, sir. It comes free with the popcorn.
Is that air popped?
Skinner, we're losing valuable makeout time.
More of the Chalmers and Agnes thread.
Yeah. They kind of drop this, but I prefer when Chalmers is boring. Him being on dates with Agnes is a little too silly for him.
Yeah, I guess anything to add to Skinner's humiliation. Although
That's
he's
true.
there with Edna, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
So it's a double date, but he's still being cucked in a way, I suppose.
Yeah, that's funny to me. I'm in favor.
And then we get a call back to the Teletubbies with Milhouse getting his underwear or his pants torn, exposing his Teletubby undies, which 10-year-olds, it was, you were clearly a baby if you were still watching that at 10. But I also do like whenever there's a gag of Nelson and Lisa recognizing that they used to date.
Yeah.
I like those.
That's very sweet.
I think there's a wasted opportunity that they have the "Let's All Go to the Lobby" song with like no parody. It just plays.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean they already did
It's
the best
overdone.
one. Yeah,
I feel that maybe the Simpsons writers acknowledging that a drive-in is a little bit antiquated.
Yeah, that's true. It's I went to one drive-in once in like I think it was 95, 96. It was to see Hot Shots Part 2. That's the only film I've seen.
I think mine was Spaceballs.
Billy Crystal, Robin Williams film Father's Day at a drive-in.
Oh wow. But yes, the kids all sneak in to watch the Village of the Damned parody, which is at least like the film is very close to the clips I've watched of Village of the Damned. The kids look exactly the same. It's British, small town British people being terrorized by children.
I like how it's directed, this parody, but I also like how the joke is just about how British everything is.
Yes, yeah. Get off my moor, you troublemaker. I wonder what our British listeners think of how Americans think British fancy people are, or lower class British people are.
This is a peculiar thing about a lot of older horror movies. If you watch any of the Universal horror movies from the 30s or the 40s, they are sort of set in peculiar European mishmash countries. So people will be dressed in lederhosen or there will be kind of Transylvanian castles, and then everybody will speak with a British accent.
That's like when you see films like where the Nazis speak with British accents against the Americans and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Or I've probably said this on a million podcasts before, but I always remember the film Enemy at the Gates, that sniper movie where all the Russians are like Cockney Brits led by Bob Hoskins. So everybody kind of talks like him in his like brusque British voice, but they're all Russians talking about like you have to defend Leningrad.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, like the German is played by the head Nazi is played by Ed Harris. So in a very like unaffected accent. It was a strange choice.
Inglourious Bastards is the only movie I can think of that sort of acknowledges that dilemma, because
that's true.
That has that whole section of the movie where Michael Fassbender goes undercover as a German, and then deep into it somebody recognizes a bit of a sliver of a British accent, and that is the sort of thing that probably would have happened to spies all the time.
Mm-hmm. I love that scene. I was just watching that movie again recently, and also I love where they try to pretend they speak Italian, and the woman is like, I know you're American, but do any of you speak another language? But yes, we head over to the British Isles for the bloodening.
Get off from my moor, you mischievous weans.
Actually, we'd prefer to stay. You're thinking about hurting us.
Now you're thinking, how did they know what I was thinking?
Now you're thinking, I hope that's shepherd's pie in my knickers.
They showed him.
Man, I never liked Shakespeare until now.
Right, you little gliders. We've had quite enough of your evil mischief.
But you're the one who's been bad. You've been sneaking puddings.
But how did you know?
We know all your secrets.
And you pilfered the poor box.
And Doctor, we know that you and the bootblack have been rogering the fishwife in the crumpet shop.
Hey, how dare you! Get them! Quickly!
We can't have that.
I love that line. I mean, the joke is like, how many British English things can we sneak into this scene? My favorite one is having to pan across 4 characters for that last joke. It's really good.
Especially the guy spitting out his tea who runs the crumpet shop. Yeah. Like a crumpet shop, too, that only sells crumpets.
Crumpets are great.
The sneaking in of a poop joke with the shepherd pie in your knickers. That's a tough word. You got to be careful with that word.
Enunciate.
And also calling things puddings too, like, is a very British thing. So in the trailer for the Village of the Damned that I did pull up, the they don't make a guy stab himself with his own pitchfork. They do make him shoot himself with his own like old-timey shotgun. So right in the head. It's intense.
That's how you do it.
After that scene, we get Lewis of all characters saying like "in your face, fishwife." Like he never gets a joke.
Rare
line.
Lewis line. Yeah, I guess Ralph has to appear for that joke in the song, so he can't be with them. But there needs to be more like known children in this gang.
And also this scene, another very rare thing is that it ends with Eddie getting a joke of all characters.
Yeah, it's his time to shine. Before it was, God, Who Shot Mr. Burns Part 2?
Yeah,
that's a good way to get sick.
That's the last time he got any good lines, but it ending on him chuckling after scaring Wiggum with the lights, like that was pretty good. How the kids get caught though, it seems like it would have been elucidating to just have a scene of like somebody spotting them and calling the cops or something.
Yeah,
like there's other holes in this story, so not too bothered by it. But then comes my line of the show in the next scene where the kids are put to work. I'm gonna play the jingle if you agree with me, Bob, on the being the line of the episode.
I think I'm with you.
That's the joke.
And let this be a lesson to you. Kids never learn.
No, that is it. I'm tired of being pushed around by grown-ups. It's time to fight back.
Yay!
Fight back!
Man, if we had eye power like those kids in that movie, we could read the adult's mind and tell their secrets and make them pitchfork each other in junk.
Yeah! Wait, we don't need supernatural powers. We already know their secret. She's right. Homer's done a ton of crap that never made the papers.
My mom shoplifts all the time. Stuff she doesn't even need.
My dad gets in car accidents on purpose.
Great, this is all gold.
We gotta spread this stuff around. Let's put it on the internet.
No, we have to reach people whose opinions actually matter, and I think I know how.
So Alt TV Simpsons was not happy with that line.
The show is getting pretty sensitive to their internet critics at this point, I think. I mean, they'd already put the lines of people on the forums in the mouth of comic book guys. So.
Yeah.
But this was their next level to it. I do just love I like the line, "Let this be a lesson to you, kids never learn." It's clever.
I just got that was a joke. I like it.
Martin's mom sounds a lot like Marie from Breaking Bad. Am I right?
I thought about that too. The most that subplot snap, crackled, and popped.
They just totally dropped that. They're like, I think maybe they realized like we don't need to have every character do stuff on the show.
She was fun comic relief after that.
I liked her.
Yeah,
all her purple. Marie was fun. They're not making a spin-off movie with her.
No.
The kids are devising a real Our Gang plot, which is why they even just cop to it with the Our Gang music, Little Rascals music played over.
That was cute. I feel like all these things they're parodying would never be shown on TV now.
Oh, yeah.
Just like Little Rascals, Leave It to Beaver, even black and white movies are hard to find.
This is something that I sort of like about, the early Simpsons, that it feels very rooted in, I guess, boomer or older Gen X culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. The kids who grew up watching reruns of Little Rascals, which
I'm old enough to be one of those kids.
Yeah, but you'd had to look a little hard to find.
They were when TNT opened its doors, my friend. They had a lot of content that they bought. Little Rascals was one of those.
I too remember seeing Little Rascals on TV when I was very young.
Which, I knew it first before I watched it as like a joke. I was watching the old SNLs and I had seen Eddie Murphy's Buckwheat character. And that's how I did it then.
Yeah, do today's kids have any idea what buckwheat is? If they saw those Eddie Murphy sketches, would they have any context for what that was?
I would guess not. Would they even know who Gumby is now?
Wow.
It helped too, I guess, the Little Rascals did get a film adaptation in the 90s. That's I'd watch those originals before I'd watch the Little Rascals movie from that. It was just,
starring Donald Trump, by the way.
That's right.
Oh, you're goddamn right. Damn it. Oh, my God.
I know, but you got to separate the artist from the art sometimes.
I was going to say there was nothing offensive in that movie, but now they cleaned up buckwheat a lot. I know that.
I mean, they had to.
Yeah.
There's no thing. You kind of have to. I mean, that was.
I'm sure that in the 1930s, Hal Roach thought that he was being very progressive, making a comedy series where like black children and white children played together, which, just goes to show you about how what was progressive in 1931 is just not necessarily cut it even, 30 years later.
I mean, Hal Roach was being progressive by not having a child in blackface as one of.
That's true.
Actually.
But speaking of old timey, as the kids are getting to, they discover that their best route for exposing their parents is through the radio in the 90s, which now the internet is the radio. They're the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the kids would start a podcast now.
Revealing all their parents' secrets. I think this gag, even though I was like 16, the bit of the kids knowing all the parents' secret, I was like, I guess I do know a lot of my parents' secrets too, and could humiliate them if I wanted to.
That'll be a Patreon episode.
Yes, yeah. We know all their secrets.
That could just go on YouTube. You're right.
Yeah,
and just say my dad's a drunk.
I mean, I'd rather those exist than the torturing your child YouTube channels that exist.
All the fun prank families that are being shut down.
By the way, I'm sure people will know this. I mean, like most people, I don't follow The Simpsons anymore, but would I be right to guess that there must be an episode where Homer starts a podcast, like in the last 5 years?
Oh, they've only recently embraced podcasting as something to make fun of, and I watched the one with Mark Maron.
Krusty goes on WTF, yeah. They did do that, and they did a corresponding episode.
If it hasn't.
Homer and Bart definitely started a Flash video cartoon on the internet.
That is true.
That.
I mean,
I also remember the episode where Homer starts like a Breitbart style website where it's like Mr. X.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, I think it was like
Drudge.
a Drudge.
Drudge.
Yeah.
That's the name I was looking for.
I've always had the idea for a spec script, which is as good as writing the idea down and making it into a script, that Bart and Lisa will start an Itchy and Scratchy podcast. And Henry and I are guest stars on that episode, by the way.
Yes, that's part of the spec.
Yeah.
They've cycled through every other possible idea with these characters, so why not?
Why not? I mean, one episode I watched from just 10 years ago was the first act was, what if The Simpsons got TiVo? What would that be?
Oh, you're right.
Yep.
And, oh my God!
But yes, as the kids are hatching their plan, we get to hear about another NBC sitcom.
Oh, good.
So, Marge, ready for another episode of Don't Go There?
I'm tired of that show, but I've been hearing good things about Talk to the Hand. Tom Shale says the writing snaps, crackles, and pops.
Okay, whatever takes my mind off my life.
Talk to the hand, the face ain't listening. Hey, look what I found. Grandpa's old radio. Oh, wouldn't it be grand to gather round and have a listen?
Well, turn something on. I'm starting to think.
So yeah, that was a fun dig at David Faustino, the
yeah.
Bud Bundy from Married with Children. He never ascended to musty TV heights, though.
No, the lead on a sitcom, that would never happen to him, which I guess is also the joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciated the reference to Pulitzer Prize winning TV critic Tom Shales.
Yeah, and I guess that's what he said about Just Shoot Me, is what they said on the commentary.
Which, by the metric of those shows, I liked Just Shoot Me more than the other ones. Like, no one would ever watch Just Shoot Me now, I don't think. Nobody cares. But it at the very least had on Mr. Show actors, thanks to the incestuousness of the Brillstein Gray management company.
Yeah, it was Brian Posehn on a major role in the show, right?
Mm-hmm. And
also America's sweetheart, David Spade.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. And
he recently came back with another version of that Hollywood update, which he already had.
Like an eclipse, it just comes every couple years, or like a case of locusts.
I get promoted shots of it in clips of it in my Twitter timeline every now and then, and he just is very tired. And a lot of his jokes are just like, you know what it's like to be famous, right? Yeah.
I feel like his whole gimmick of being like that smug guy who makes fun of movie stars, makes jokes about celebrities. Like it wore a little better back when he was 22.
Yeah.
As being this aged shell of a man.
Just very tired, still doing the same thing. Well, and also like it's one thing when you're 22 and you're just rising as a star, that then when you make fun of, say, Vampire in Brooklyn, you're like, okay, that's fair. You wouldn't make that. But now when you're the guy who's not even the fucking lead in Benchwarmers, like, where do you get off?
When Joe Dirt 2 goes direct to Crackle, who are you?
Yeah. I'm assuming he probably doesn't make fun of Adam Sandler on his show, right? I'm assuming that's off limits.
I would think so, yes. Yeah. We were just they talk about all the jokes you can't say, but they don't talk about that joke you can't say on the show. But yes, they turn on the radio. We get a little clip of the FDR address, which I don't know who's playing that on the radio. That was just very random.
Could that have been was that the actual FDR audio?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, though they admit on the commentary that they actually tightened it up for timing purposes.
Fair enough.
The one thing I do like in this episode in the construction of the plot is, at least as it goes as a mystery of where the kids are, you can see in the background the back of a billboard, but it's just vague enough that you don't know it. So they're not cheating that they're like in a black room or something. Like you do get a little tease of where it is. Not that they even let you have the mystery for all that long of where the kids are. I think the mystery lasts like 90 seconds, but... But yes, it's time for We Know All Your Secrets.
Good evening, adults. We interrupt this broadcast to bring you a very special presentation. Tonight's program is entitled, We Know All Your Secrets.
Boring. Go back to that infamy guy.
Constable Wiggum likes to act tough, but he also likes to walk the beat and control top pantyhose.
Well, it's not like that's a crime.
I'm afraid it is, Chief.
And school mistress Crabapple has been stealing supplies from the school cafeteria.
Edna, how could you? Don't get up. I'll bust my own tray.
I love the giant mustard barrel.
Yes, yeah. All the industrial size things there. I like that. In both these cases, I support the criminals. Like, you should steal from work like Edna does if you work for a place that'll never miss that stuff. And you know what? If Wiggum wants to walk around wearing that, more power to him. That's what I say.
He really bounced back from his public indecency charge to show up later in this episode.
Yeah, he gets out pretty fast.
He had his arraignment, I guess.
Wiggum's cross-dressing is something that pops up very occasionally on episodes, but it's never quite as... it's never become quite as much a part of the show's lore as Smithers' queerness has.
Yeah, it's true.
There was one episode where he said, finally, an excuse to wear makeup.
Yes.
Which one was that?
That was when they got to make movies.
Oh, yeah.
It was A Star is Burned.
You're right, yeah.
Plus, he was undercover in basically a Glenn or Glenda outfit as the guy stole his purse.
Right, and he accidentally
Lost Our Lisa.
And he accidentally bought a male sex doll.
Oh, yes.
Accidentally.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't go there with more stuff with that. Though, I mean, they were edging up to some regrettable trans jokes if they had gone too much farther, which I'm glad they didn't. Mm-hmm. Then we get to learn some more secrets about Homer Simpson.
Now we come to Mr. Homer Simpson. Did you know he likes to eat out of the Flanders garbage?
I have a problem.
Tune in tomorrow and every day until the curfew is lifted, because we'll be revealing embarrassing secrets about Springfield's other adults.
Well, at least they've already done me.
And we have plenty more on Homer Simpson.
Oh!
Homer's problem.
Man, I don't know. This episode's funny. I take it all back. This is really.
I like that Homer's problem isn't shocking or ridiculous. It's just very troubling.
Yes.
Homer.
I also liked that little scream he did. Just absolute perfect timing.
Yeah. And how defeated he is when he's like, I have a problem. Though what's worse, that he eats out of Flanders garbage or that he eats tulips, as was revealed in Burns' Air.
Or the soaps that came in the mail.
Oh, yeah, he did. In that one, he's not even ashamed that he eats those little soaps. Yeah, that Homer thinks he's safe after having one secret revealed, but it's all going to be Homer on it, which they do follow through on that promise. And then it feels like something got cut here in the pacing where they go to the town hall and Quimby is like, and we're going to find those kids in their accents. And then he's immediately cut off by Otto, like, hey, the kids are telling secrets again. Like, it feels like an extra joke sequence got cut.
Yeah, maybe there was a longer scene with town hall things happening, but there wasn't enough time or they just wanted to get right to Otto. But it feels like that they don't need to be there at all. You're right.
Springfield has more town meetings than any other town.
Yeah, I never went to one town meeting, and I sometimes get it in the mail in Berkeley just because, like, for zoning things, they're like, hey, they're going to build X here. There's a meeting for this if you want to talk about it. Like,
I like how the town meetings also sort of all the strata of Springfield society are present, and they're in one melting pot. You have well-known TV personalities like Krusty the Clown, and you have, oligarchs like Mr. Burns, sitting alongside Mo.
You're right. Yeah, it's almost like Rockwell in its. And yes, we then get another installment of We Know All Your Secrets.
I've called this meeting to determine what to do about those blabbermouth kids and their creepy English accents.
Hey, shut up, Mayor! They're telling secrets again!
Oh, I hope they don't reveal this as a comb-over.
Our top secret tonight, gay divorcee Luann Van Houten has been cheating on her boyfriend Pyro with his best friend Gyro.
How many times have I fought beside you, Gyro? And this is how you repay me?
Gyro, settle down. Can't we shut down that infernal transmitter?
Can we just blow it up?
You go ahead, girlfriend.
There goes Barts.
Yes, ma'am. Say it again, girl.
I think Hibbert was watching Talk to the Hands.
That's so weird that they have Hibbert become the sassy black guy. That's so odd.
Is this also the last time we see Pyro on the show?
Pyro would make one more appearance. This is the last time we'd see Gyro. Gyro only appears for this one joke.
The subtly Greek version of Pyro.
But all these jokes, like American Gladiators, had been off the air for like 3 years at this point.
Yeah.
I think Luann should have just entered into a poly relationship with Pyro and Gyro. That's what they do now.
We weren't there yet in 98.
Pyro should have been suspicious that Gyro was sitting next to Luann and came to the thing with him.
And also brought his jousting stick.
Yeah, so as the town is freaking out, Quimby reveals that they're already on the case, searching for the kids. Wiggum is listening through an old-timey ear horn while Frink is listening through a science fiction ear horn.
I like that Frink brought that and a sci-fi gun to aim at the kids.
That's so crazy. He pulls out a gun that like beeps and stuff, but I never noticed it until this close viewing on it.
Same here, yeah.
It's played very low on there. But yes, there's also a bit of a gag, another like lip sync. The lip sync is at its worst in the bit where Lisa speaks.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a different line originally, but it's just so distracting. It's like a season 4 ADR where it's just like, oh, I can't even look at this.
Who's operating medicine without a license? That's right, Homer Simpson.
Yeah.
And just the mouth movements are all wrong on That's Right, Homer Simpson.
And the emotion is kind of off too. I don't know. It bothers me.
But I do like that.
I do like that Hibbert looks a little nervous when that's said, suggesting that Hibbert is operating without a license, which is an amazing piece of information.
On the commentary, they reminisce about how he used to be the good doctor, and they've degraded him so far.
That only lasted to season 3.
And yes, it also is shocking not just that Frink has a sci-fi gun, but also to see Professor Frink pointing a gun at children.
Yeah.
But yes, the children are caught, and things come to a head.
Brilliant! They transduced amplitude modulation via the concavity of that oversized beverage conveyance. I mean, that is some clever vibing. All right, you kids, come down now. We promise we won't kill ya.
Speak for yourself. Bart, get down here. I'm gonna spank you back to the Stone Age.
You can't make us come down.
You adults are always giving us orders.
Oh, you kids are always disobeying them.
Adults treat kids like children.
Kids treat adults like cash machines.
Adults!
Kids!
Adults!
Kids!
Adults!
And that begins the Bye Bye Birdie parody.
Yes. Yeah.
So I only found out about this after the fact. So after watching this episode in '98, I went online to read like the fun trivia people would post on All TV Simpsons, and like, oh, this is a parody of Kids from Bye Bye Birdie. And I filed that away in my head, and I didn't really watch the Bye Bye Birdie until a few years ago when I half watched it at that bar I was talking about. I was like, oh, right. And so I don't want to be horny on Maine on this podcast. It's the last thing I want to be. But I will say, the opening of that movie is the most erotically charged piece of cinema, featuring a woman fully clothed alone in a blue void. It's amazing. It is amazing. And Marg Rock.
Bye Bye Birdie, but you're really selling me on it now.
Yeah. I mean, just watch the first song by Anne Margaret. It's I mean, she's a beautiful woman, but man, she moves.
Yes. No, I mean, Anne Margaret, she was a Stone Cold Fox.
Yeah.
Then, yes. But,
she appeared on the Flintstones.
Oh, it's Anne Marg Rock,
yeah.
right?
That's why I called her Anne Marg Rock up front.
Oh, yeah. Well, the story of Bye Bye Birdie, though, I saw the movie long before I saw the Broadway show. The Broadway show and the movie are actually quite a bit different, thanks to Anne Margaret.
It's a bit of a sci-fi movie in that Paul Lynde plays a straight father.
Yes.
Oh, honey.
Those are the only things open to him. Now.
He's really funny in that movie.
Paul Lynde fucking rules in it, and he's the lead singer on Kids, which I think is why they gave Lovejoy the opening line in their Kids parody song here, because he's like the most like Paul Lynde voice of the regular cast, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, Bye Bye Birdie started as a 1960 Broadway musical, which had Dick Van Dyke in the lead role in it. And it's sort of about in the 50s when Elvis got drafted and people freaking out about it. And the character of Elvis is Conrad Birdie. He comes to town and causes all these problems. And the young girl Kim is into him, but she lies about her age. And it ends up with the guy actually getting arrested, Conrad getting arrested for statutory rape at the end of it.
I missed that part of it.
That's not in the film.
Okay.
They get rid of that. But Dick Van Dyke, it was one of the last things he did before the Dick Van Dyke Show. He actually took 2 weeks off from Bye Bye Birdie to film the pilot for the Dick Van Dyke Show. And yeah, Paul Lynde and him reprised their role for the 1963 film. But as Paul Lynde himself would say, they made that film to be an Anne Margaret vehicle. It had already been a Tony Award-winning Broadway play, but back then, just like how they made a lot of changes to Hello Dolly to make it a Barbra Streisand vehicle,
right,
they did the same for Anne Margaret and Bye Bye Birdie. And so they rewrite it. The opening song, Bye Bye Birdie, that she sings is not in the musical. They wrote it for Anne Margaret to sing in the start of the movie.
That's the scene I'm talking about. Go on YouTube and watch that. It's amazing. She, I don't know why she's just in a blue void, but it's crazy.
And as Paul Lynde said about the movie, they should have called it Hello, Anne Margaret.
Oh.
And he himself was pissed that some of his best lines from the musical got cut to shape the film more around Anne Margaret's character.
But yeah, this song is not even a sound-alike or whatever. It's a direct parody, or the backing track or whatever you want to call it is the same. It's not like See My Vest or anything like that.
And also it's Bye Bye Birdie is kind of about interracial marriage as well. The kid song, it's two adults complaining about kids. It's Paul Lynde complaining about his darn daughter Anne Margaret dyeing her hair and chasing after Birdie, but it's also Dick Van Dyke's oppressive mom threatening to kill herself because he's marrying an Hispanic woman. And they're both complaining about kids together, Lynde and Dick Van Dyke's mother in the film and in the original one. So that is the situation of the kid song. It's a fun little song. I think the most famous song from it is "You Got a Lot of Living to Do." I think that's though that because it was in commercials when I was a kid for Carnival Cruise Line.
Yep, that's right.
But Will, in all your important film viewing, you've never seen Bye Bye Birdie?
I know. I'm very ashamed that I haven't seen it. I don't sense that it's often mentioned amongst the great movie musicals, though.
No.
Yeah, it was oddly referenced a bit, but I never actually saw it in rotation. I know Mystery Science Theater would reference it a lot, especially the Ed Sullivan song.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but it would never popped up.
Ed Sullivan plays himself in the movie too.
That's right.
No, well, I know in the Broadway fandom, they look down on the movie because it changes too much. much. Like there was a quote on the wiki page from one of the stars of the original production saying like anybody who's a fan of the movie hasn't seen the Broadway version like that. So there's some real hate for it, but that's the one that's more famous. I think they did one of those live televised musicals in the last few years. Bye Bye Birdie got one of those too.
I often hear Bye Bye Birdie, or at least I think I've often heard it mentioned as this disembodied signifier of a school play.
Yeah. Oh, it's about teens, and it's perfect for teens to play in it for sure. Though I guess only if you have teens that can sing, which most teens can't sing. But yes, the song itself is their version of Kids. I'll play it right now.
Kids! Kids, you've had your fun, now we've had our fill.
Yeah, you're only here 'cause Marge forgot her pill.
Kids, you're all just vandalizing punks.
Channel hopping, rhythm popping monkeys. But please don't quit the fan club. Kids, I can nag and nag till my hair turns blue.
Kids, you bum my smokes and don't say thank you.
Why can't you be like we are?
Oh, what a bunch of brats.
We ought to drown you just like cats.
Adults, you run our lives like you're Colonel Clink.
Adults, you strut around like your farts don't stink.
Adults, you're such a drooling, soaring, boozing, boring bunch. Surly, meanie, 3 martini lunchers. I just ate a thumbtack.
Adults, they're always telling us to
Shut your traps!
We're fed up with all of you whippersnaps.
We're trying to get some sleep here. It's almost 6:15. What's the matter with? Don't you treat us like?
Can't you just lay off?
We're sick of all of you.
Kids!
The song is fun. It kind of goes a little long, I think.
Not particularly funny, is it?
There's not. I mean, my biggest laugh is Ralph saying, "I just ate a thumbtack," which comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, like most Ralph lines. I do like the shocking revelation that Mo was about to drown Snowball too.
Yeah,
that was pretty crazy.
Yeah. I feel like the charge of adults versus kids, like the emotional or I don't know, the weight of it isn't quite there for me.
The other part I did like was that Milhouse is really trying to get into the song, but then he's immediately stopped.
I love that. That's a good joke. Yeah.
But then like the thing I think is clumsy about this ending is that just like the senior citizen plot like crash lands in the last minute of this episode to resolve things. Like we saw them once. I think it's when they stole part of the TV tube or something like that.
Yeah.
And put a cat in the TV. But they never really had a comment on what was happening. And so they sort of like crash land in this to make an ending happen in this episode.
Yeah. Well, they only got 30 seconds left, so they got to do it. It felt weird that Bart references Colonel Clink, which I only knew of it because Colonel Clink appeared on The Simpsons like 5 seasons earlier.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like Bart was not watching Hogan's Heroes, which it wouldn't line with Stink if he just said, "You guys treat us like Nazis." Like that doesn't rhyme with Stink. So also like walk around like your farts don't stink. That's a little too cute. I really don't. That's my least favorite line, I think.
They could have pepped up the song a bit.
But yes, the best joke is Milhouse being denied his line. They wrap up the song "Kids Today." The greatest generation guilts us all and lets us know that they're tired of all of these kids. And they threaten the grown-ups, and we learn the lesson that the elderly really do vote.
We're gonna teach all you rugrats a lesson.
Oh, yeah? What can you old people do to us?
Yeah, you old fogies.
Buzz off,
Yeah,
y'all.
so
What do you got?
You're wrinkly. Somebody should iron you.
This is Kent Brockman reporting from my own home in accordance with the new curfew for anyone under 70.
I can't believe that passed.
I warned you guys that seniors always vote in record numbers.
The controversial measure passed by a single vote.
You really should have voted, Homer.
It wouldn't have made a difference. Lights out, you punk kids! Yay! We took back the night!
Hey, fellas. Hey, you want to stop with the kicking? My pills are in that can. Good.
Good gravy.
And then Hank Azaria ad-libs over the credits.
Yeah.
You're not going to play the whole credits?
I'll play the whole credits at the end of the episode. We don't need to hear that now.
I like whenever anyone interacts with the Gracie Films lady.
Yeah, I
It's
do.
always nice. So I guess the other funny line is the weird Ralph ad-lib. Somebody should iron you.
That was odd.
Yeah,
yes.
you're wrinkly. Somebody should iron you. I don't know if that was written or something that Nancy made up when, like, make background noises, everybody, or whatever.
I like the guilting Homer about not voting. That's fine. But that is still as true today as then. But now the generation that was Homer and Marge, they're the elderly who vote all the time.
That's true.
They matter so much more than us young. Well, when I say young, I mean 37-year-old voters.
Very young people.
So young.
I will say, we didn't say it up front, but the title of this episode is a parody of the movie Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken, and it's about a high-diving horse. So puzzle that one out.
Oh, that's an episode of The Simpsons in next season in Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, you're right. Wow.
I didn't realize that was a reference to Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken as well. Wow. I haven't seen that movie either. Just like Ambulance, I have not seen it.
Put that on the list with Bye Bye Birdie. Triple feature.
Okay, you watch Bye Bye. No, I'll watch Bye Bye Birdie. You watch The Ambulance, and then next time we meet, we'll trade notes.
And also speaking of movies, the last shot of the old people playing together, it sort of reminded me of the Spielberg segment from Twilight Zone movie.
Yeah, I think that segment was called Kick the Can, right?
Oh, yeah. The nice segment of the film.
Rest in peace, Vic Morrow.
Oh, God. I guess the John Lithgow one is the best segment in it by far. Though Nancy Cartwright's in the Bill Mooney one.
That's my favorite one.
Yeah. But Lithgow screaming, man, it's just so funny. Not funny. It's like, I just love John Lithgow. He rules.
He is great.
Anyway.
Yes. Any final thoughts on this one?
For me, I think this is nobody's favorite episode. It's not particularly memorable, and maybe it doesn't quite gel, but every time you were playing clips from it, I was sitting here chuckling and laughing and thinking about how even lesser 10th season Simpsons has 5 great gags a minute. So I guess my thumb has to be up.
Yeah.
Even now that I'm much older, I still find the kid power stuff distasteful. But I do think that in isolation, there are a lot of very funny jokes. And I did enjoy this one more than I thought I would.
Yeah, if I could, my Monday morning quarterbacking on it is I'd turn down the cutesiness just a little bit. That's some of my least favorite stuff in it. But there's still good joke writing in this as it goes. Like, I think this is The Simpsons trying to navigate entering a new decade, too. So that's why they have these. The jokes about sitcoms they're doing here are very different than the jokes about sitcoms they were making in 1990. But yeah, there's and honestly, jokes about baseball. I do like the jokes about fair weather fans. That's some of the best stuff. Which by the time we get to the Bye Bye Birdie song at the end, I had forgotten that this started at a baseball game.
It's a broad spectrum of jokes. But thanks again to Will for being on the show. Will, please plug all of your stuff. We're big fans of you and your podcasts.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, I have 2 podcasts, believe it or not. It's a lot of podcasts to have. I'm podcast rich. With my friend Luke Savage, host a podcast called Michael and Us, which is a politics and culture podcast where every week we watch a movie or a TV show, usually something pretty bad, and relate it to the current moment. And with my friend Justin DeClue, I host a film history podcast called The Important Cinema Club.
One of your ones really gave me reason to revisit Tim and Eric's $1 billion movie because it was like too gross for me when it first came out. I didn't give it enough of a chance, but you guys really helped me understand that movie on a deeper level.
Oh, me too. I think we're ready for that movie now as Americans.
Thanks. I'm glad you enjoy it now, and I too took a long time to appreciate Tim and Eric's $1 billion movie, but I now think it's one of the key artistic documents of this decade.
Yeah, we recently evaluated their series, Tom Goes to the Mayor, and in light of today's events and the modern times, it really feels like, I think our theory was, it's if the promised future never happened. That's the setting of Tom Goes to the Mayor.
Everything is just empty and fake and dead, and we're just trying to.
Yet there's a facade. There's a grim facade that we're all supposed to find it good.
The only person with optimism is crushed.
Yes. Yeah.
Every episode.
And also the stupidness of entrepreneurship as well, like the emptiness of that.
Yeah, there is definitely a recurring theme in their stuff about just like astroturfed corporate culture.
So thanks again to Will Sloan. You can find him on Twitter as Will Sloan ESQ. That's WILLSLOAN ESQ. Look for all his hilarious Joker tweets. I've been enjoying those. But as for us, if you want to support our show and get some nice things in return, please go to patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. And for the low price of $5 a month, you will get every episode of this show 1 week ahead of time and ad-free. And the same goes for our sister podcast, What a Cartoon. You will also have access to dozens upon dozens, dare I say over 100 bonus podcasts you haven't heard yet behind the $5 paywall. And that includes everything we made for the past 2+ years, everything we will make far into the future. So please sign up for $5 a month and you'll get everything you've been missing out on up until now. And Henry, what is happening at the $10 level? Extra long podcast every month.
Well, as part of our sister podcast, What a Cartoon, me and Bob do an exclusive monthly podcast for our $10 and up patrons. That is the What a Cartoon Movie podcast, where we talk about a different animated feature film once a month in a similar Talking Simpsons style. Our most recent one is Cowboy Bebop the movie. We're doing that one in September, and you can hear that and over 24 hours of the previous What a Cartoon Movie podcast, only if you're a $10 and up patron, on top of all the other cool stuff you get at the $5 level. It's a really great deal. So please consider signing up for that at the $10 level. One more time, that's at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
So I've been one of your hosts, Bob Mackey. Find me on Twitter as Bob Servo. I have another podcast, by the way. It's all about classic video games, and that podcast is Retronauts. Please go to retronauts.com every Monday and occasionally on Friday to find new episodes, or just search for them in whatever you use to listen to podcasts. Once again, that is Retronauts, and please listen. Henry.
Hey, you can follow me, Henry Gilbert, on Twitter at HENEREYG. I'm sure to tweet up a storm there about all the things going on in the world, including whenever we have new podcasts or events happening in the Talking Simpsons Network universe. I'm sure to tweets about them, and you'll learn about it there first if you follow me, HENEREYG.
Thanks for listening, everyone. So next week, because we have hit the premiere of Family Guy in the Talking Simpsons timeline, we will be doing the first episode of Family Guy, Death Has a Shadow. And then we will be right back to The Simpsons right after that. So we'll see you next week.
Hey, you want to stop with the kicking? My pills are in that can. Good gravy. I don't kick your things. When you're trying to breathe on the machine, do I go up and kick it? Oh, now look at that, it went down the sewer. You happy? I'm gonna sue now. Now it's time for the lawyers. Don't tell me to shush, you stupid lady.
All right, let's see some IDs, boys. You two scofflaws are violating curfew. I'm taking you downtown. Oh, sorry to disturb you, Dr. Hibbert.
Not at all, officer.